cut me a deal. Just so you know, the tourism has looked at an air museum, a sports complex, a horse arena, an amphitheater, and maybe one or two other projects. And I told you y'all this before, we want to do something that's not going to be a drain on the general fund. Whatever we do, we want it to either be self-sustaining or make money. So we don't want to have to come back and say, hey, we're short $200,000, we need money out of the general fund for it. So that's why we've kind of going slow in this process. Again, willing boards, TDA and council, I believe that you all want to see something, you want to have something to hang Monroe's hat on, and it needs to be the right thing for us. And we're not going to move forward until we have that right thing. We do have national promotion of aerospace, our aerospace industry, our air show, our businesses, and Tinkerbell. I've yet to run across a city that owns a vintage aircraft. So. Weaknesses, again, lack of clear direction with regards to the capital project. Again, we've looked at a bunch. We want to choose the right one. So it could be a weakness that we haven't designed one and found that yet. Long-term financial stability, if we have another recession, our hotel occupancy taxes are going to go way down. So we want to make sure that we have enough money in the bank to cover something like that if we have to.
The hotel occupancy tax, does that have a sunset feature to it?
No, sir.
It's already flipped though.
What it did, 10 years ago, we had it, and 1/3 of the money that came in from the occupancy tax went towards operation, basically salary and what keeps the office. And 2/3 went into the savings account for the capital project. Just this past September or October, it switched. So 2/3 goes into operation and 1/3 goes into capital. The reasoning they do that is when you first start it, you build up your capital, then you build your capital project, and then you have the operational money to run that capital project. Since we haven't designed or built a capital project, basically that money is sitting. Now this doesn't mean that we spend the extra 2/3 in operational money by giving me a huge raise, but that'd be okay.
That's tomorrow's meeting, right?
Yeah. So the extra money in operational can roll over into capital.
Oh,
So we don't have to spend it, so to speak. It could go back into our savings account, or it could just sit there until the time that we need it. So, and it's a really good time. Like I said, we're going to bring in almost $100,000 more this year than we did last year.
I noticed that the hotels have brought in more than they expected. Well, there's been over
Yeah.
what they thought they were going to get on tourism each month.
Hotels are doing really well, and it's all a bigger microcosm of the economy. People are traveling more, and it's across the board. It's not just one or two hotels.
It's across.
All the hotels are. And we've got everything from a $29 a night hotel to a $139 a night hotel in Monroe.
has there been any talk in the General Assembly about doing away with occupancy tax?
I haven't seen anything with that. I know they're really strict in making any changes or adding any new ones. I know that Stallings had looked at it 2 years ago because they have 2 hotels in their town, and I don't think it passed. I think it's real tough to get any kind of changes in that, but the ones that are existing, because your coastal communities and your mountain communities just rely so heavily on those occupancy taxes. I don't think that our General Assembly would pick
Well, I know
that.
that, I don't know about other big cities, but I know Charlotte relies very heavily on theirs.
Yes, sir. Yes, Charlotte, Raleigh, yeah.
And probably Greensboro.
Yeah, all the larger cities, I mean, especially Charlotte. And, that's another thing that helps us with the new hotel. It gives us a little more prominence in drawing events to Monroe. With just having the Hampton Inn, we just had 100 and something rooms. Now we have over 200 rooms that are enclosed. Basically, you go in the lobby to get to your room. And that's where conferences are looking for. So we could help to, and that's one of our initiatives on the tourism board, is to try and have more of those local conferences here in Monroe and Union County. Again, no true destination. We have events and we build on those. And that makes it difficult to market Monroe sometimes. We have to really be creative and try to do things to draw visitors here. Because I'm spread out a lot, we don't have a lot of participation in statewide initiatives. And to be honest with you, we get overlooked. Everything is the coast and the mountains when it comes to tourism. So a lot of this, or Pinehurst. Everything in between, it's almost an afterthought at times. So again, we have to get creative with that. And again, we need to create some new marketing materials, and hopefully we'll have some of that this year. Again, threats, long-term financial stability with regards to the economy. If people aren't traveling, we're not making money. We do have a very aging hotel stock, quality and quantity. Without y'all being here, you know which hotels I'm referencing, and you know, we do have some police issues with some of those hotels. And I've talked with Chief a little bit about that. I don't know if it's as far as where Charlotte condemns some of these hotels for public safety, so I don't know if we're at that point, but that could be something we look at in the future. Again, communities around us offer more amenities. You know, stay in Concord, you have the racetrack in Charlotte, Matthews, you know, so we're in constant competition. Community support and participation, it was an opportunity, but it's also a threat. How much do people really want tons of outsiders coming here? Do we want a big attraction? Do we want more traffic on 74? So it's kind of a push-pull kind of thing. And then again, the overall image and perception of the city of Monroe. Talked about it during the branding initiative. What do people outside the city of Monroe think of us, and how are we going to change that image to attract them to come to the city of Monroe? So that's kind of tourism in a nutshell. It's a work in progress. And I'll happy to answer any questions.
Reminder about the Beach Blues Barbecue next weekend.
Again, Beach Blues and Barbecue next weekend. You know, we piggyback on a lot of our downtown events, Brian's events, Parks and Recs events, as well as the air show as our main tourism events and activities. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Staff, thanks to you today for the SWOT presentations that are, again, superb. Mayor and members of City Council, I'd like to transition from SWOT presentations to fiscal perspective. That will be presented by Lisa, and she'll touch on a number of things: reevaluation, fund balance usage, major capital and operating budget expenditure. And I've asked her to try to keep it at a high level, just basically give you the first set of insights of the data. As you know, we'll be presenting or delivering the budget books end of next week, I believe, March, or on or about May 1st, and we'll have a strategic session where we can walk through the different components and sections of your budget handbook. And with that, I'd like to introduce Lisa. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just as Larry mentioned, this is going to be a very broad overview of where we're at right now. We'll be able to have much more discussion as council wishes on May 5th, and we are on schedule to have the books distributed next Friday. As you know, the budget process is progressing very quickly. We've conducted meetings, meaning Larry, Mary Lou, and I, with all of the department heads and their key personnel, and they have conveyed their priorities to the team, and based on their priorities and other discussions with council, we've prepared a conservative budget proposal. We've used some realistic estimates and have matched expenditures with sustainable recurring revenue. The budget that we're proposing currently includes the revenue neutral tax rate, which I'll cover on the next slide, and it also includes some favorable growth revenues on the sales tax area that have helped to offset some of our losses with the privilege license sunset. So the focus for today is going to be on the current revenue picture, and then I'll provide an overview of the items that are being included and some that are not included, and the remaining budget schedule. This first slide is the revals, which you've all been waiting for, I'm sure. As you can see, that first column, fiscal year 2015, that is our current taxable or current assessed value, $3,454,000,000. Our tax rate of 55.5 cents yields a revenue of $18.8 million. The county has estimated our assessed value at $3,270,000,000 roughly. This is a loss in value of about $183 million, or 6.36%. From what they've said, there were no winners in Union County. All the cities lost value. The proposed revenue neutral rate to yield the same revenue that we currently enjoy, $18.8 million, is 58.63 cents. This would be an adjustment of 3.13 cents. If we do not go with the revenue neutral tax rate, we have a revenue reduction in ad valorem of just over $1 million, and it could be more because we'll lose that little slice of the pie in the sales tax revenues as well, because we'll lose some footing there with a lower tax rate. Does anybody have any questions on this slide?
Just clarification. So if we leave our tax rate where it is, we'll lose about $1 million because of the reduction.
Yes, sir.
in ad valorem. And plus we'll lose whatever we lose to the county and to the other municipalities because we're not increasing our tax rate, so we'll get an additional portion.
That's correct. If they all went with their revenue neutral rate, they'd probably all be raising or making that a bigger number. And if our number stayed the same, we'd get a smaller piece of that pie
We
as a
don't
percent.
know right now what that
No.
is.
No, we sure don't.
Are we hearing any more about whether or not the state is going to redistribute or come up with a different formula for distributing sales tax revenue to see if that impacts us and weigh it on?
There are some bills that are proposed in the legislation. Those bills will not affect the fiscal year 16 revenue stream. They would be for future years, I think out in
It's
17,
actually,
18.
Councilmember Jordan, it's not, there are a couple of bills that are out there. One, and I think they all aim to be effective after the next fiscal year, but right now the bills aren't moving. There is one that will have a 3-year phase-in that we believe will cause, at least based on projections, some impact in the city. There is an additional bill that has been proposed that is trying to use the 2013 revenue, sales tax revenues as a baseline, but it's not going anywhere either. So right now, there are 2 Senate bills out there that are competing, and we do not know which one's moving forward. It is an issue of sort of competition internally between portions of the General Assembly.
But we don't have an idea of whether not either one of them will pass the House and the Senate by the end of our fiscal year, so that we could have an idea how that's going to impact us in future years, so
We
we can make preparation for
Right,
future years to try to offset any losses that we're going to have as a result.
That's correct, and it's going to depend on what the state does and how quickly they choose to make it effective. We've seen, for example, one, as I said, would be a 3-year phase-in, and then another intends to give like at least a year's grace period before the changes come.
That's what I would hate to see us do is do a budget based on just a snapshot of what is going on overall with the state, so that for our next year's budget, we're having to come back and readjust again, and maybe not looking at it holistically, so that we start phasing in some of the increases that we might have to make, or phasing out some of the reductions that we need to make in order to address all of our issues as we address them.
Well, if I understand right, what they phase it out is what's going to hit us next year. The sales tax, if they don't give us something back off of that. We don't know where that's at yet. but I can kinda see where it's going. I think it's going south, but I don't know that either. So that's gonna be a big impact on us already. And of course, we're already fixing to see the impact on the, privilege license. So there's not anything else to add on, to add. In fact, we're on a reduction, I mean, from what I think.
Well, and that kind of gets into my next slide. As you can see, and we talked about this slide last time, what we did was we took a look at the major revenues for the city and which ones were sustainable going forward. Obviously, privilege license, no, and we're showing the reduction, that 859,000. Sales tax at current, statewide, there is a 7.5% increase for fiscal year 2015, with an additional increase projected in fiscal year 2016 of about 3%. We feel that for next year, we can sustain the sales tax at that $536,000, dollars. The other revenue source that is coming in very favorable is the utility sales tax. This is the new revenue that we started realizing this fiscal year. The utility used to be a franchise, now it's based on a sales tax that's assessed on the bills. The proceeds are distributed to all the cities and towns, and